Hello, Kristen. Welcome to the Doing CX Right show.
Hi, Stacy. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you for that. Well, it's an honor to get to know you more. And I like to start off with who are you? What do you do professionally?
That is a big question. We
Yes.
could spend all half hour talking about that. But the kind of long and short in it, I'm a kid from Southern Ohio that went to the Naval Academy right out of high school to get an education. Didn't really have a lot of knowledge about the military, but I went onto the campus and fell in love with a life of service, a life of helping others. And I learned a lot of lessons when I was there. I
Mm,
realized that I was a lesbian, and so I was serving under Don Esteltel, and so that really shaped the way that I think about the workplace and how laws and policies kind of shape the experience that people have in the workplace. So I graduated, became a Marine Corps officer, deployed once, got out of the Marine Corps, and decided, well, how can I continue serving? And so I got my master's degree in social work, and I really fell in love with advocacy and kind of social justice work. And after that, I decided, hey, why not go to Tesla and see if I can do some social work stuff while I was there? And so I was on the HR side, building leaders in our factories. So really doing that leadership development work on literally on the front lines. And then moved into the D&I world as we were starting to build out that function, and then ultimately ended up leading it. Did that for long enough to know that it was time for me to move on. And I got out and started my own company called the Agency Initiative, where we build courageous leaders. We just came out with a book yesterday. And so it has been a journey, but every moment throughout that journey is kind of building up to this point.
mm, absolutely a journey. Wow. And it sounds like they're all building blocks to where you got today. And fascinating story. Well, we will go deep into a bunch of the things you just said. First, I want to ask you, since this is the Doing CX Right show, when I say that, what does doing CX right mean to you?
To me, it's all about the human experience and how to make sure that we are understanding who our customers are, and we all have customers, and really understanding what the need is and getting clear on that and keeping it human centered at all times. I mean, that's hard these days, especially with AI and all the technology that is around us. But I think really doing it right means to say human centered and human focused.
Mhm. So I agree with that. Although at the same time, I say I've been having some very interesting conversations with AI solution providers. Many reach out to me, being an influencer and such. And they'll say to me, well, Stacy, I can't really talk about the human development because we are actually taking away jobs. We know we're doing that. What do you say to those people? Because that is happening, it is our reality.
I'm glad you asked. We have an entire chapter about this in our book because we think it is one of the most important issues that is happening right now. There's a lot of fear in the system because employees are worried that their jobs are going to go away, that their skill sets are going to go away. And they have a right to be worried. That is the intention of a lot of these agents to replace employees. What we say is that it's really incumbent on the leaders to understand what are the skills of the future and how are you understanding what skills your team currently has and helping one be honest with them if their skill set is going to be something that becomes obsolete, and how are you helping them reskill in a
Mm.
way that they can have those durable skills to either find something new or find a different place in an organization. And so we really look at it from like a coaching lens. So just like you have different players on a baseball team, you have different players in your team. And so you have to be able to assess their abilities and reskill them, or at least point them in the direction of reskilling them to make sure we're giving people an opportunity to stay employed. AI is coming. We know that it's already here, and the workplace is going to change drastically. We can't be afraid of that. But what we have to do is be prepared and make sure that our employees and our teams are prepared to move into the next generation of what the workplace is going to look like.
You talked about prepare,
Mhm.
and preparation is important when fear is real, it's rising, it's not going away in this uncertain world. when you worked at Tesla, such an innovative company and high tech, which is symbolic of many companies out there, how did you help people go through the fear, get the courage, and especially when it came to talent and learning?
I mean, it really is about how can people adapt to change. And what we learned at Tesla was like you have to be able to adapt faster and faster and faster and faster. That was the constant. Everything was changing every single day at Tesla for the good and for the bad. And so you really had to be at any given moment, be prepared to entirely pivot, whether that was your work, your project, your job. Maybe, my boss left one day and she was just gone. And so, there were times like that where you would just be hit with change and uncertainty, and you had to learn how to swim in those waters. And I think from a talent standpoint, a lot of it is some stuff you have, right? Like there's just some experience that gives you that confidence to be able to withstand some change. I think some of it too is also looking at your team and being authentic about what is going on and transparent about what's going on. Try and make the uncertain, give a little bit of certainty as much as you can
Mm.
through transparency. And I think my team appreciated that. I think a lot of leaders are afraid to be human, afraid to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. But I think what most teams appreciate is somebody that's just going to be real with them and tell them what's going on and show that they can care and help them prepare. And so I think that's the biggest lesson is, you have to be upfront with people. You have to help them navigate the change and find a way through.
Mm. I remember working in telecom, and every 6 months, the axe would come down.
Yeah,
And I had to basically like duck my head,
that's right.
right? And hope that I'm not in the wrong place. And particularly one company, I lasted 13, if not more years, but literally it was a ducking game. And
That's
so,
right.
but that's been for 25 years. So is it different now?
No, think about what that did to you. 13 years of ducking and covering. Think about the toll that that takes on your psyche, the toll that it takes on your work. And we have employees that are constantly working under those conditions, more and more so every single day. And it was a similar thing at Tesla. I lost count of the number of managers that I had because I had at least seven, eight, or nine over a 6-year period. That's just what happened. There was so much turnover in the leadership ranks. And so, think about the impact that's having on your team, and you're asking them to build the most innovative products in the world. Like that, it just doesn't make sense. The math doesn't make sense. And so, how can you bring about some certainty, bring about some stability in whatever way you can, and give space for people to just breathe and have a moment to just be human and be with you? I think that's what I found most effective, just acknowledging, like, you all don't look like you're okay. I know I'm not okay. So, what do we need to talk about? So then we can move on to do the work.
I'm noticing, not even noticing, reading all over the news that so many HR roles are being cut.
Mhm.
Not just HR, but I'm focusing on that for the moment. So if HR roles are being cut, now I've worked with HR people that are the most human centric, the best people, the glue of the organization. I've also worked with HR leaders that should be called finance
Right.
because there was no human, it was all numbers and finance.
Right.
So the question really is then how do you really train, how do you really support people when these roles are becoming AI functions?
Right, right. I think that is a really big concern to bring up, right? If we are looking to our HR teams to develop the culture of the company and kind of uphold the culture of the company, we can't depend on robots to do that. And so, I think as we're looking at places where agents can come in and help and pick up some of the work, really you have to understand what are the roles and responsibilities of your HR team before you start cutting out things that maybe an agent could do but shouldn't do because you're missing that human component or you're missing the contextual component. And so I think that's what we have to make sure we're slowing down enough to not cut out roles. And look, we saw this at Tesla, right? We just saw this with the federal government. So roles can be a name on a spreadsheet. But if you don't understand what goes with that name or what are the duties and responsibilities along with that role, you can cut people that you actually need that are really important. And so I think, we talk a lot about understanding the skills that are necessary for roles and going to skill-based roles. It's a lot of work to do that, to truly define what the skills are for each job. But I think that's work that you can do now to make sure you're not cutting people or cutting roles that you're going to need in the future because you've got a robot that's, giving people bad advice. And I think that's the work that HR teams need to be doing right now.
Where does AI fit in the HR industry? Where is a good use case?
Yeah, I think that's the question we're all trying to figure out. The thing that you hear now is it's being used a lot in the recruiting space. And I think a lot of folks are, especially candidates, like are upset by that, right? Like you're getting denied by somebody that can't hear your story and can't hear the human side of what you're bringing to an organization. I think that is a detriment to attracting talent. You don't want people who can pass a robot screening. You want somebody who can connect with you on a level and who wants to perform on your team because you have that human connection and that trust built. You can't trust a robot to screen out people or screen in people for that. And so I think, not really the question you asked, but where we really have to take a look at what we're doing right now is the role that AI plays in recruitment and talent acquisition.
So we share in common a topic around, I would call it emotions. Your book, Courage Over Fear. Fear is a deep emotion, and I believe emotion belongs in business. And many people have said to me, "No, Stacy, it does not." and I have my own views, and I'm actually proving in many ways that it does. But I would like to get your perspective that why do emotions have to be part of leadership and business? And how do emotions like fear affect the employee experience, which fuels the customer experience?
That's right. I mean, we're human. Until the robots are, leading the world and have all the jobs, like we are dealing with humans. Humans have emotions. We can't deny that. And the more that we try to deny that and have people leave their emotions at the door, the more detrimental it gets. We've tried this before, right? Like we've told people just come to work and, leave everything at the door. That's why we have a lot of mental health problems in the workplace and people getting burnt out is because they're dealing with so much around them that then they're trying to leave at the door when they come to work and just focus on work. And it's just too much to ask of somebody. And so I think one, having corporations that understand this, that their people are going to be better when they're not burnt out and provide the resources to make sure that they aren't burnt out. Like that's really an area that we could do a lot better in thinking about wellness and thinking about mental health and how corporations are providing benefits to support people. I always like to tell the story. The day I knew I needed to leave Tesla for Christmas, I had asked for one of the EKG readers that you could use with your iPhone so I could make sure I wasn't having a heart attack. And so that's how I was getting through my day was like, let's make sure we're not having a heart attack today so we can just go to work and deal with whatever stress is coming. I was 41. That's not normal for a 41-year-old to ask for an EKG for Christmas. Like that's not how this is supposed to work. And so, I think making sure that thinking that your employees are going through that, and I wasn't having a heart attack. I was having panic attacks because all of the anxiety from what I was dealing with. And so, being true to recognize how people are feeling and how people are doing and be committed to do something about that, you're only going to get higher performing teams and a higher performing business.
For people who love technology and are learning and excited to be in a Tesla like company, what do you say to them? Because they are dealing with what is reality, fast pace, give your blood, heart, and soul, and yet you can't burn out. So, like, how do you handle that? Because Tesla's not the only one where you're working like that. I've had
You're
that in
right.
my career.
You're right. You're right. And we thought we were the only ones. And we were kind of told that we were the only ones, that no place is going to be like this. And so you get addicted really to the adrenaline rush that you get from such a fast-paced environment. but you have to be honest with yourself and listen to your body. I know that sounds like woo woo, but you really have to listen to your body because it's going to give you all of the signals that you need to know when something's wrong. In the book, we call it tension, right? Like you're going to feel it before your brain catches up to know that something's going on. And so
Mm.
that would be the advice that I give to people. If, you're not sleeping, if you're getting headaches, if you feel like you're having heart palpitations, that means something. Don't ignore it. Make sure you go and address it and understand what it is, because that's what's going to give you the ability to play long term. Not addressing it is not the right answer. And I think, I'm a Marine, like you want to feel invincible and, that nothing can take you out, or we're all humans. And so
Mm.
we're all going to be going through things, and it's a natural, normal thing to happen. But make sure you go and you do something with it.
So, marine life,
Mhm.
Tesla life,
Same thing.
I could see, I see, yeah, I see a connection there. I have to imagine marine life built you up to be damn strong, especially as a female in a corporate world. How has that served you, and what would you say to other listeners, especially women, on how to be resilient and how
Yeah.
to perform at high levels?
Yeah. I mean, the Marine Corps got me into Tesla. I went to a career fair and I took an HR manager job description with me, and I handed it to the recruiter. I said, I want to do this. And he said, Tesla is a male dominated company. And I just looked at him in the face and I said, I'm a Marine. And he said, okay, all right. And I got the job that was on that piece of paper. And so I think there's a piece of it, like knowing who you are and what you bring to the table. And don't be afraid to own that, and let people know what you've been through, because it has built you up for this point. And the Marine Corps is, it is a special institution. It is different than the Army and the Air Force, but it takes a certain kind of person to want to be in that environment and thrive in that environment. And so not everybody needs to be a Marine to go work in corporate America or go work for tech companies, or to be a woman in corporate America. But having that grit and that resilience and the confidence to know that you belong because you're smart enough and you're good enough and you can work hard enough, it really is that belief in how you show up and the person that you want to be in those interviews or in those boardrooms,
Mm.
that people have to, that you command respect.
So, I want to talk about a real example that a colleague shared with me, and that is she was hired into a company to actually change the culture and bring the human element to it in a fast paced AI world. And she's such a fabulous person. The challenge is that the head of the entire company is, I can't say, find another word other than mean.
Yeah, been there. Yeah,
Okay, just
been
mean.
there.
And I'm keeping the company and the
Yeah, of
person
course.
anonymous. So now the rest of the people are there thinking, oh, this woman's a breath of fresh air. Like, thank God she's here. But what advice would you have to her and other HR leaders who are trying to support the people, but the top person is just damn mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've been there. I mean, we talk about that in the book, about how these authoritarian tactics, that's what's in now in leadership. To be mean, to yell, to control, to never apologize. And so we're dealing with a whole grip of CEOs that are like that. And also a whole grip of people who are watching that at the lower levels and thinking that that's the way that we want to act. And that's how you become a CEO, is by being mean. We call those people accidental authoritarians, right? Like we're giving them some grace that you aren't showing up every day wanting to be a jerk. But that's what we're seeing in the workplace right now. Mean is in. So what we have to do is make sure that we understand, where do we have agency? And
Mm.
so the whole process we talk about in the book is called the agency loop. And so it starts by understanding your values. What do you believe in? Like strongly, truly held values. You're going to find yourself in a position where your values are bumping up against your environment. Recognize those points. That is a point of agency. You can make decisions. You're always going to have choices in those moments. And you always get to make a decision, even if the decision is to do nothing. But recognize those moments where you have agency. It may be in a small, in a conference room where you can speak up for somebody. It may be in the way that you present yourself or something in a meeting. But there are a lot of different ways. But you always have a choice. And once you do that, how are you recognizing how you're learning and growing from those moments as well? And so it really is taking the courage to just try some experiments on a small, small, small level. That's what I did at Tesla. There was no way I was going to change Elon's mind. It was not going to happen. Elon is who he is. But what I could do is understand what I could do at my level. And I could look at our policies, I could look at our benefits, I could make those decisions to have inclusive healthcare, to offer gender affirming care, to make sure that we had all the holidays covered and people had time off. Those were my decisions. And so I think people have more power and control than they believe
Mm,
because they want us to feel helpless and powerless. That's how they maintain control. But that's just not the truth. And I would like to think that every time I had agency, I like did the right thing and I didn't. So you're going to get some stuff wrong. You're going to make some decisions where maybe you don't do anything and you regret it a little bit. That's okay. It's all in the learning and the process. And the better you get at recognizing those points where you could probably do a little bit more and have the courage to do a little bit more, that's how you slowly, slowly, slowly gain the trust of the people around you. You build resilience in the organization and you push the culture a little bit further.
great advice. When you think about the future, which the future's now, but the next 5 years, where do you see learning and development as a department in companies? How is that changing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's $1 million question for people like me. I think AI is going to be a big part of it. There's no way that we're going to get out of it. I'm hoping that it is not the entire part of it. Nobody likes to sit in front of computers and learn. Like people still like to learn from humans. And I think there is immense opportunity in being face to face with people and building the community piece of learning that we've kind of lost since the pandemic. So I'm hoping that we find some balance between using AI to make learning design faster and easier and better and more thorough, and also keep the human component. So we're getting that connection that we're still trying to build since 2020.
Mm,
And I think the connection piece is coming back. Like we're starting to see a lot more people wanting to do things in person, which is great. But I think we need to see more of that. So people are less of a screen dividing people, and we're having conversations again with people that are different than us, that people that have different beliefs than us.
yeah, Zoom fatigue is real.
Yeah, yeah, I'm over it. I'm over it. Just let me back in so I can talk to people and get to know them on a human level and not just what they say or do on a Zoom call.
Yeah. Best leadership advice you've given or received?
I don't know that this is leadership advice, but when I was a kid, my mom told me that trust is one of the easiest things to break and one of the hardest things to gain. And so I've always kept that in my mind, that in the forefront, that building trust with your colleagues, with your friends, with cross-functional partners, that's the most important thing you can do. And it means something.
Yeah.
And it can help push things forward. But you know what? It can be gone in an instant if you do the wrong thing. And so I really think focusing on how you're building trust with your team, with people around you, is kind of the best thing to focus on.
Yes. And I would say for listeners who are doing customer experience right, you know that you are designing a customer journey on purpose, an employee journey, a partner journey, and you have to really measure where are you breaking trust?
That's
Where
right.
are the emotional highs and lows that
That's
I'm
right.
speaking so much about? So love that. And final question, my favorite. What advice would you give to your younger 20-year-old self if you could go back in time and talk to younger Kristen?
I would say just enjoy the journey. I think so often I have been focused on where am I going next? What am I doing next? And I've let moments pass me by that weren't celebrated, or I didn't recognize what it was for a learning opportunity. And so I think what I'm doing now is really embracing, like, who knows what's next? And that's okay. And it might turn out better than I could ever imagine or ever plan for. And so, I would just say, look, it's going to be all right. Go ahead and follow where your passion is taking you, and you're going to be okay.
Yeah, and you proved that even your previous life out of corporate that fueled your life in corporate, that probably was very organic in
Yeah.
how that happened.
Yeah, it was. It was. And sometimes you just have to let it be and see where it takes you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on my show. And I'll have in the show notes where everybody can access your new book. Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
your website and your socials. And I know people will want to reach out. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Stacey.